Alright guys, hello, welcome back to the channel, and unfortunately, as you can see, we are not outdoors this week, and I would much rather be out on location with my camera, 100%, and yeah, we will be next week. However, on the other hand, it is wonderful for me to have this opportunity to do a Q&A video, which is something that I've wanted to do for ages, to be fair. And also, I think it's great for you guys to be able to get involved a little bit more, you know, ask me a few questions, get some different insights from myself, I suppose, about my photography, and more, I guess. So thank you so much for all the questions. It's massively appreciated. I've got 9 or 10 questions here, I think, and I've had plenty more, and unfortunately I'm unable to answer them all, else we'll be here all week until next week's video. So I hope you guys understand. Before I get into this, I'll give you guys a quick overview of what's happened so far since my last video. Just been travelling around Germany a little bit, and now been in Munich for about 5 days, I think. So very new here. This is the apartment that we're in. We've been doing a lot of sort of admin stuff, residency applications, and the car's broke, the Red Beast. Something wrong with the exhaust. We've been getting that fixed. It's been quite busy, you know, settling in. But we're just about getting there now, and I cannot wait to get out with my camera. There's so much to see around, even around the city in Munich. It's class. Loads of green spaces, loads of forests, and we're literally like less than an hour's drive to the Alps and huge lakes. Can't wait. I'm well excited. So there's going to be plenty of exciting things to come, that's for sure. So thanks again for all these questions. I've got them written down here. However, I've not really planned exactly what I'm going to say, because I want it to be kind of honest and sort of free-flowing. I think planning it out wouldn't have worked too well. So, question number 1 comes from a guy called Mike on the Move, or I'm assuming it's a guy, so thank you very much for the question. Do you ever plan on going to a full frame camera? If you do, would you go DSLR or mirrorless? Great question to start it off. No, at the minute I don't plan on going to full frame or upgrading to mirrorless. I don't like saying upgrading. I'm just more than happy with my D7200, you know. I'm selling prints with my D7200. You know, all the images on my calendar were created from my D7200 except from the one drone image. It just gives me everything that I want in a camera. Eventually, I guess I would like to upgrade to a full frame camera or a mirrorless. And I've done nowhere near enough research to figure out which one. I guess naturally I always wanted to go up to like a Nikon D810 or a D850 or something, but like I say, my D7200 just gives me everything that I want. And yeah, I think at this stage I'm prioritising upgrading lenses. I haven't bought any sort of core photography gear now for probably over a year. But I want to start upgrading my lenses slowly but surely, making sure I get the right things, doing a lot of research. Personally, I think that's more important. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. Number 2 comes from a guy called Frank Van Lessen. I believe this was on YouTube. What are your favourite photography related YouTube channels? I've always wanted to answer this question, so thank you so much for asking it, mate. Top 3, Thomas Heaton, First Man Photography, and a bloke called Andrew Marr, who's based over in Australia. They're my sort of trio, if you call it that. They're the 3 that I was really inspired by when I first started out. Before I was vlogging, they probably inspired me to go out and vlog as well. Pretty famous between the 3 of them, but I just, class, absolutely love them. You know, not famous, but you know, well known in the landscape photography vlogging field, so probably not famous at all. But yeah, I've just found them really inspirational, both for my photography and for my vlogging, so I have to mention them 3. Some others, you know, Simon Baxter, I absolutely love his woodland stuff. Adam Gibbs, I really enjoy seeing his vlogs from out in Canada. I used to live in Vancouver, so it's great to see some landscapes in BC. It's quite similar to Andrew Marr as well, how it's great to see some other landscapes in Australia, as I'm sure a lot of Australian photographers, for example, enjoy seeing stuff from the UK and from other places around the world. Who else have we got? I really like Ian Worth's stuff. I really enjoy his B-roll. I've done quite a lot of collaborations with him as well. His B-roll's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I find it really inspirational as a video maker as well to watch his stuff. A guy called Owen Clark is a little bit lesser known. Fantastic videos. I really find them proper sort of chilled out and, how to explain it, like very raw. Just a bloke going out of his camera and enjoying his photography at stupid times in the morning. I think he goes a lot sort of before work, which is something that I've mentioned before, that really, really inspires me. Who else? Chris Sale, I'm quite enjoying his stuff at the minute. I've watched him a lot in the past. He's just gone full time, quit his job, and I'm enjoying following his journey. That's something I plan to do in the future. So yeah, right behind him and just enjoying his content. Some great tips from him as well, so that's fantastic. And I really do try and watch a lot of these guys regularly. Nigel Danson as well. I've learned a hell of a lot from his stuff. He's very educational. A guy called Mark Denny, who's based in the United States. Again, very educational. I don't think he goes out on location as much as some of the others, but talks a lot about the art of photography rather than gear all the time and stuff, which I really, really like. So they're a lot of my favourites. Question number 3 from somebody called Josh.Glaister. I believe this was on Instagram. Thank you very much for the question, Josh. What's your favourite subject to shoot in a landscape? Nice simple question, wonderful. Anything with water, I think. It's very vague, but I think when I started out properly, once I had a tripod and stuff in New Zealand, I really enjoyed being lakeside down in Queenstown and enjoying long exposure photography. I enjoy shooting waterfalls, rivers, seascapes, of course, one of my favourite types of photography. I find it really, really fun to experiment with long exposures, and I enjoy like reflections and stuff. I think bodies of water are just fantastic to use as foreground, you know, if you're talking about lakes and stuff like that. So yeah, a little bit vague, but that's definitely my favourite. I'm really hoping to delve into some woodland photography a little bit more. I'm really, really fascinated by it, and I think there's a lot to be gained from woodland photography as well. I think you can really improve your composition and stuff and the way that you're thinking about your photography as well. So yeah, I hope to get involved in some woodland photography a little bit more. Question number 4 from Terence Farrell 2, and I believe this is on Instagram as well. Will you still be doing regular uploads on YouTube? Yes, mate, 100%. Tuesday at 6 PM UK time, there will be a video every single week. I plan to continue whilst I'm here in Germany. Keep an eye out. Thanks for the question, mate. Number 5, Daniel Gregory photos. Do you ever show up to a location and not know how or where to start? I don't really do that anymore. I think I probably did it first in New Zealand. Now, I kind of enjoy, I've mentioned this in the past, I enjoy a sort of loose plan. And what I mean by that is I plan a little bit. You know, I want to go somewhere that's photogenic, obviously. Rough idea of where I'm going to go and what I'm going to shoot, but I don't like over planning either. I like to be sort of somewhere in the middle, whereby, yeah, I can have a bit of an open mind when I get there. I think sometimes if you plan too much, you can end up disappointed, and it's happened to me too often when I was over planning. But no, I definitely recommend rocking up to places and just, you know, seeing how it is. But at the bare minimum, yeah, I like to know that where I'm going is at least going to be decent for photographs. Like I wouldn't just go to a forest and think, you know, there'll be something here. I like to at least do a little bit of research and think, you know, what types of trees do they have there? Is there a lake in the forest? Are there any waterfalls or streams running through it? That sort of thing. I don't like just rocking up with any plan whatsoever. It's a little bit long-winded there, but I hope that answers your question. Question number 6, _Nick_Nack_. Thanks for the question. Do you have a favourite lens to shoot landscapes with? Yes, to directly answer it, my 18-55 is my favourite lens. Over 80% of my shots are shot with that lens. I think all of my photographs on my 2020 calendar are on that lens, shot from that lens, except from one, which I think was on my drone. It's weird because when I first got my Nikon D30-100 in Canada, I was mad to get a wide-angle lens. when I got to New Zealand, I got my Takina 11-16 f2.8 and I was delighted. And I thought, you know, I'm going to use this all the time. And I think that's probably a natural progression for landscape photographers, is to think, you know, I'll get the wide angle lens, that's it, I've got my landscape lens then. But I always use my 18-55 lens. You know, if I could only have one lens, it'd be that one. And you know, I guess it's quite versatile. 18mm, even on a crop sensor, even on my Nikon D7200, it's a fairly wide angle scope, isn't it? 18mm, and then 55 is a sort of short range telephoto almost, especially on the crop sensor. But yeah, very versatile lens, and I absolutely love that sort of mid range, and it's definitely my favourite lens. Question number 7, Jim O'Neill. Thank you very much for the question, Jim. Since your video on whether you should print your images, have you printed many, and have you a preferred paper to use for number 1, colour, and number 2, black and white? So black and whites, I don't shoot that often. Very, very seldom do I shoot black and white, so I can't really answer that. I've not specifically looked for paper for black and whites. I don't print that often. I went for a phase of printing to make sure that all my images were right for my photographs that I wanted to sell, my prints that I wanted to sell on my website. And they're all on the same paper, on Canson Barita, which is a semi-gloss, and I absolutely love that paper. I've not used gloss paper for any of my photographs yet. I don't like the way it looks. Matte, I think, is fantastic for certain types of photographs, but I've just found it's not suited any of my photographs yet. Semi-gloss, Canson Barita in particular, I just think works perfectly. It brings out the vibrance of my photographs. It works really well for my style. I think you've got to go through a little bit of a trial and error to figure out what's best for you. And I think I'd enjoy the trial and error aspect a lot more if I printed at home. You know, I use a photograph lab based in the UK. A little bit expensive, but I think it's worth the extra money for the quality that I get out of them. You know, I'm selling prints, I want to make sure they're perfect. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. If I printed at home, I'd love to print a lot more often, that's for sure. Cheers for the question, Jim. Number 8, Tony Noble. Tony, I think, comments on a lot of my YouTube videos, so thanks a lot for the support, mate. Much appreciated, and cheers for the question. Of all the places you've visited, if you could only shoot one, which would it be and why? Awesome question. The UK, the United Kingdom, 100%. I've travelled to nearly 40 countries, I think. A lot of them, I've enjoyed some of the landscapes there. You know, it's not always been for photography, but I feel like I've got a decent idea of, you know, I've got a lot to compare the UK to. You saw my video, like, what, 3 weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, where I mentioned, you know, I don't know if I want to leave the UK. I love it so much. It just gives me everything that I want as a landscape photographer. Yeah, it's just unreal, the UK, isn't it? Like, the subtleties of the Peak District and the Shropshire Hills, the epicness of Snowdonia for me, and Scotland, the Highlands just blow my mind, and all of the Hebrides and the Western Isles are just absolutely incredible. The Lake District just absolutely goes without saying. Phenomenal country, if you want to call it that, the UK, for landscape photography, and I don't think anywhere will ever beat it for me. Spectacular. Cornwall as well, Devon, unreal. I hope that answers your question. Nothing will ever beat the UK for me. I'm going to make this one my last question because I don't want it to drag on for too long. If you're still watching, thanks for sticking with me. Nate Van Vivis, do you ever, or would you ever shoot astrophotography images? Fantastic question, another great question. I have done in the past. When I first started out with my Nikon D3100 in New Zealand, on the South Island, I was always doing astro. For anyone that doesn't know what astrophotography is, it's basically sort of night photography when you're shooting the Milky Way or shooting the stars. You can sometimes have some foreground elements in there if you want. It was a genre of landscape photography that I thoroughly enjoyed, and for some reason when I got back to the UK I just never carried it on. I think it's a really good type of photography to help you learn about the settings for your camera. You know, when you're physically trying to use your camera It really, really helped me out, and I'm really glad I started with a lot of astrophotography. But yeah, the romantic side of it, I absolutely loved. I've got great memories of being out in New Zealand lakeside or up on a mountain, freezing cold, just enjoying the landscapes and the serenity. Obviously nobody about that time of night. It's definitely something I'd like to get back into in the future for sure. A fantastic type of landscape photography. So that's it. Like I said, I don't want this to drag on for too long. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. Massively, massively appreciated. And yeah, cheers for watching, and I look forward to being out on location here in Germany, probably somewhere around Munich next week. There's so much to see around here, I cannot wait. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you next week on the next adventure. Out.